In this video, I'm going to take a deep dive into the chords used in Weezer's Say It Ain't So. These are the two chord progressions that are used in Say It Ain't So, and the sections where they occur. Let's begin with this first progression that makes up the majority of the song. So the song is in the key of E flat major and uses chords 6, 4, and 1, along with this G major chord from outside the key. This chord is a secondary dominant, so chord 5 of another chord in our key. Specifically, it is chord 5 of 6, because if we think of chord 6 as chord 1 of its own key, then G major is its chord 5, or its dominant chord. Now this G major chord doesn't actually lead to C minor in this case. Instead, it goes to our chord 4. And the reason why this 5 of 6 to 4 works so well is because of smooth voice leading. Smooth voice leading describes chord changes where the notes don't move very far from one chord to the next. In this case, every note simply moves up one semitone. Another song that not only uses the 5 of 6 chord moving to 4 chord, but actually has the exact same progression is Where Is My Mind by the Pixies. The only difference is the starting point. Where Is My Mind begins on chord 1. Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Oh. We'll come back to this main progression, but let's shift our attention to the bridge progression for a moment. Here, the song changes to the dominant of the E flat major key, B flat major, and it uses chords 1, 4, and this flat 6 chord, which has been borrowed from the parallel minor key, B flat minor. Now the flat 6 chord is a great chord from which to approach chord 1. For example, you can have every note in the flat 6 chord drop one semitone, which gives us chord 5, which then leads to chord 1. Or you can have every note move up a whole step at a time through the flat 7 chord to reach chord 1. But here, we simply move from the flat 6 chord to chord 1. And the reason this works is once again due to smooth voice leading. The B flat remains the same between the two chords, while the other two notes move one semitone in contrary motion. Then at the end of the bridge, the G flat power chord moves to a C power chord, marking a shift back to the E flat major key. This is a bit of an abrupt transition because these two chords are a tritone apart, and tritones are one of the most dissonant intervals. But it works because the voice leading between the G flat power chord and the C power chord is so smooth. Each note simply moves one semitone in contrary motion. Specifically, the tonic of the G flat chord resolves up to the 5th of the C chord, while the 5th of the G flat chord resolves down to the tonic of the C chord. So we have both a tritone and smooth voice leading, so it manages to be both jarring and smooth at the same time, if that makes sense. So now that we've covered the basic progressions, let's go back to the main progression and dive a little deeper. Now a quick side note, Weezer actually tuned their guitars down half a step for this song. And the guitar I'm playing now is in standard tuning. So anything I play on it is actually half a step higher than what I'm talking about. This is the guitar 1 part featured in the intro and outro sections. And if we look closely, we can see that this first chord is actually a C minor 7th chord. So C minor, C minor, 7th. And this G chord actually has a sharp 9. At least that's how most people would probably describe it. But I prefer to think of it as a flat 10, because I like to see it as a chord containing both the major third and the minor third. So B and B flat. So here is the major third, which gives us G major. And here's the minor third, which gives us G minor. And here is both the major third and minor third together. It sounds somewhat unpleasant, right? Almost like there's a wrong note in there. And that's because most chords will have either a major third or a minor third, not both, and certainly not right next to each other like they appear in this chord. This combination of major third and minor third together gives the chord a dissonant ambiguity. It's both major and minor at the same time. Now, the reason that the flat 10th label is generally not used is that chords are commonly conceptualized as being built by stacking thirds. So after your basic triad, we have sevenths, ninths, 11ths, and 13ths. We don't use eighths, tenths, and 12ths because that would just be repeating our first, third, and fifth. In the same way that the 9th, 11th, and 13th notes are simply the 2nd, 4th, and 6th notes not used in the initial triad. But I'm using the flat 10 here because I'm thinking in terms of having two different types of thirds in the one chord. Anyway, feel free to think of it and label it whichever way works for you. Just know that the sharp ninth is the more standard way. Now, I want to look at how the vocal melody combines with the instruments to add even more color to these chords. First, I really like the way that the verse melody begins on the 7th of C minor, moving up to the suspended 4th of the following chord, before resolving down to the 3rd of our secondary dominant, G major. Using this G major chord from outside the key allows the singer to sing this lovely chromatic cluster of notes. After this tense beginning, we then get more stable harmony for the remainder of the progression. I also really love the choice of notes in the chorus melody, because a lot of these notes are not in the basic triad, so they really spice up the harmony. We begin with a major 7th, falling to a 6th, and in the next chord, that 6th becomes a suspended 2nd, which resolves to 1. Well, it goes up to 3, and then back down, resolving to 1. Those falling suspensions, da 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 da, really fit the lyrics to a T. It kind of sounds like clinging to a hope, but that hope dissipates when the suspensions resolve. As a side note, this chord and melody combination reminds me of Someday by The Strokes. In many ways we'll miss those good old days. Someday, someday, say it ain't so. Also, we very briefly get that added flat 10 again, because the chord played by the guitar uses the major third, but the vocal melody uses the minor third. Da, 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 da. This is immediately followed by a melodic note that adds a sharp 11th to the A flat major chord. This sharp 11 gives the harmony an aching, longing feeling to it. My love is a heartbreaker. Okay, let's take a quick look at the bridge melody. So we have this 3-note motif that shifts back and forth between 2 notes a semitone apart. So this motif is raised higher and higher as the bridge progresses. So it begins on the tonic, Dear Daddy, then moves to the 3rd, This bottle, and finally the 5th, Like Father. The way this motif climbs higher and higher really raises the tension, which is finally broken on the word flood, where the key switches back to the original E flat major key. Now, like the verse and chorus melodies, the bridge vocal melody also adds another level of richness to the overall harmony. As an example, let's zoom in on the line, "This bottle of Stevens awakens ancient feelings." So the guitar is playing power chords, which are made up of the first and fifth degrees. We begin with the vocal melody switching back and forth between a major third and a minor third. So overall, that means we're going back and forth between a B flat major chord and a B flat minor chord, which creates instability. This continues here, but the guitar and bass also add in an A note, which gives us a major seventh chord and a minor major seventh chord. Then we get this lovely major seventh falling to the sixth. And finally, we get this sixth chord moving to a major seventh, finishing with a flat 13th and sharp 11th. Ancient feelings. So you can see that there's a bit more complexity going on beneath the surface of this song than the casual listener might realize. If you enjoyed this video, you might like my other Say It Ain't So videos, where I look at the song's structure, instrumentation, and how to recreate this song yourself using Logic Pro. And if you got something out of this video, give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel.